My dad joined Starfleet because he believed in it. I joined on a dare.
You joined to see if you could live up to him.
Hello, and welcome to Film Rant. This time we review Star Trek Beyond, directed by JJ Abrams. No, wait, hang on. Justin Lin? The Fast and the Furious guy? Alright, okay then. Now, I've never been a huge Star Trek fan. I don't not like it, it's just something that I've never really gotten into, so please bear in mind that this review is being delivered to you from a filthy casual. I enjoyed the previous two movies, even if Into Darkness had its flaws, but I've only seen them once, so I'm watching Beyond practically fresh-faced. As usual, this review will contain spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie, you'd best beam yourself away and watch it first. Now, I'm not going to talk about the main roster of characters as we're already familiar with them from the previous two films, so I'm going to start by talking about the villain, Krall, played by Idris Elba, who seems to be fucking everywhere these days. I quite like Krall, he seems somewhat intimidating, and I think Elba did a tremendous performance, particularly with how he delivered the sort of broken English Krall has. Krall's plan is basically to wipe out the Federation in some kind of twisted revenge for being abandoned by them. It's a bit thin, but I think that's enough to carry a villain. What's interesting is that they didn't reveal the motive until quite near the end, which is something that wouldn't usually work, but I quite like that setup. I feel it let there be more of a sense of mystery about Krall throughout the movie. The only thing I didn't understand was how did he turn back into a normal human at the end, or how did he even end up looking like Krall in the first place? Maybe I switched off during that explanation, but I totally missed why he even looked the way he did. At no point in the movie did I ever think he was human until the end. The other character worth talking about in the movie is Jayla, played by Sofia Boutella. Now, I fucking love Jayla. Her comedic scenes with Simon Pegg were wonderful to watch. She had a couple of awesome fight scenes, and that ability she had to duplicate herself was pretty cool. I think Sofia Boutella gave a stellar performance and really made the character believable and extremely likeable. In terms of the script, I just want to start with the most depressing, if not touching point first. I'm glad it wasn't Justin Lin who directed Furious 7 because having to deal with 2 issues of cast deaths in 2 movies would just be damn sad. But Justin and the writers do a really wonderful job in paying tributes to both Leonard Nimoy and Anton Yelchin. There is a lovely moment early on in the movie where Zachary Quinto receives a message telling him Ambassador Spock has died, and we see an image of Nimoy as he appears in this trilogy of movies. Later, Quinto discusses this with the fellow who tries to kill Jason Bourne, and he says something like, "For a man who lived as many lives as he, it is illogical to fear death." Now, even as a filthy casual, I knew exactly the sentiment that was being expressed here. Finally, at the end of the movie, Quinto opens up something which I think belonged to Ambassador Spock and looks at an old photo of the Enterprise crew. That was a lovely moment to witness on screen. It wasn't played for drama, to try and evoke tears, it was just a wonderful, touching tribute to one of the greatest sci-fi actors and characters of all time. This is all rounded off by Chris Pine raising a toast at the end of the movie and dedicating it to absent friends, which clearly both references characters in the movie, as well as Mr. Nimoy and Anton Yelchin. Ultimately, the whole movie itself is about loss. We see the Enterprise destroyed, which is very significant in itself, almost starting a new era of Star Trek. But Captain Kirk's story arc is also about loss. He loses many members of his crew and he feels in limbo about whether he wants to continue captaining the Enterprise. Even the villain is all about loss. He loses himself by going crazy on a desolate planet abandoned by the Federation. He's lost hope, he's lost friends, and he's lost his mind. What's really great about the movie though is that even though it's centred around loss, it has some damn great comedy in it. The whole movie is a bit like an episode of Scrubs in that it does have some quite poignant emotional moments in it, while also being very light-hearted and joyful to watch. There's a great joke about halfway through the movie where Spock knows how to find Uhura, by tracing a necklace he gave to her as a gift. The necklace emits a radioactive pulse and McCoy asks Spock, "You gave your girlfriend a radioactive piece of jewellery?" To which Spock replies, "Yes, the radiation is completely harmless and it's unique to Vulcan, so it's easy to find her." To which McCoy looks at him shocked and says, "So, you gave your girlfriend a tracking device?" Spock then looks shocked at this revelation and simply says, "That was not my intention." It was great comedy like this that shows just how much Justin Lin and the movie itself understands its characters. The banter between Simon Pegg and Jayla and McCoy and Spock is both witty and very character driven. Captain Kirk also has some nice comedy moments which are helped by Chris Pine's excellent comedic timing. Star Trek Beyond isn't anything hilarious, but it has some lovely little gags littered throughout. As I mentioned at the start, this movie is directed by Justin Lin, the Fast and the Furious guy, as JJ Abrams was off fraternising with the enemy. I was absolutely baffled as to why they chose a Fast and Furious director to take over a much-loved sci-fi franchise. Cards on the table here, I've never seen a Fast and Furious movie, not even one. They just don't interest me whatsoever, but I've become exposed to them at one point or another. There is one scene in this movie where I totally understood why Justin was the man for the job. That was the scene where the crew and jailer destroy most of Krall's swarm with the explosive power of the Beastie Boys. Yes, the fucking Beastie Boys. The crew decide that to disrupt the swarm's hive mind they have to overpower it with something loud, so Simon Pegg wires up Jailer's beatbox and blasts out the Beastie Boys, killing most of the swarm. Now I watched this movie in IMAX and the sound there really helped the scene just look so fucking cool, if not absolutely ridiculous. And that's why Justin Lin was the man for the job. Only a Fast and Furious director could pull off something this ridiculous and make it damn cool. I did wonder why a space crew in the 2200s would have Beastie Boys music, but McCoy answers that by asking Spock, "Isn't this classical music?" One thing that can absolutely be said about Star Trek Beyond is that it is not short on action. The movie has just the right balance of talky and action scenes that it never feels stale or too much. There is more than enough room for character development and depth while also providing the cheap thrills of blowing shit up and looking cool doing it. The movie is 2 hours long and I'd say it's a straight 50-50 split between shooty and talky. But it's all interwoven so you never really notice any long talking sections or too long action sections. The pacing is spectacular. If any of you have watched a lot of my previous reviews, you'll know how much I dislike needless romance in movies that aren't rom-coms or character pieces. Thankfully, Star Trek Beyond decides not to include a romantic subplot. It could easily have happened with Simon Pegg and Jailer, they do have a lot in common after all, but no. Lin and the writers decided to just tell a story with no romantic baggage attached to it. You may feel mentioning something that isn't in the movie is a bit superfluous, but I honestly think Hollywood is striving to better things when it feels like it doesn't have to include a needless, forced romantic subplot. Lastly, with regards to the script, I just want to talk about the plot itself. I found the plot to be thoroughly engaging and actually very simple. It was nice to see the team split up for a quarter of the movie. It allowed for some great pair-ups and some insight into how certain characters interact with each other. McCoy and Spock's to and fro was comical, as was Jailer and Scotty's. Kirk and Chekhov were just shown to be very tight as a team. Arguably the most underplayed of the split-ups was Uhura and Zulu. We never really see much of them when they were captured by Krall, but I suppose, what are you going to do? They are in captivity after all. The plot was very easy to follow and didn't really have any big twists or turns, with the exception of the revelation that Krall was actually in the Federation. But I think the plot's simplicity lends itself well to what the movie is meant to be. A summer popcorn flick. The movie has plenty of touching moments and awesome moments, and the story never really seems too extreme or ridiculous to put you off. From a technical standpoint, I'd like to say that I love the look of these new Star Trek movies. All 3 are just so damn pretty. I'm not talking about camera work as such, but more the work that's done in post-production. The colours are so vibrant without looking odd and everything is nicely lit. Into Darkness still managed to have a slightly darker tone without destroying all the colours and light in the image. Looking at you, Man of Steel. Plus, Star Trek Beyond goes one better. No lens flare! Now I will talk about the camera work with regards to the very first scene. Captain Kirk is trying to present part of a weapon to that race of creatures who I can't quite remember the name of, but the camera work and editing is used in such a way that you think these creatures are quite large and that Kirk is way out of his depth if they attack. One of the creatures charges at Kirk and there's a comical reveal where it shows both characters in the same frame, and you find out that these creatures are actually about the size of a pug. I really love that as an introduction to the movie. It sort of set the tone of don't expect this to be boring and formulaic. Finally, I want to praise the visual effects in this movie. My god are they impressive. The worlds look very real and believable, the Enterprise and all of the ships look fantastic, the laser blasts and teleporting effects are stellar, the planets in Yorktown look amazing. There really isn't any visual effects in this movie that look poor or unbelievable. The effects team really did a great job. It also has to be stated how much I loved seeing proper prosthetics again. It really gave Krall and all the other aliens a lot of authenticity because it wasn't just an obvious CGI creature where you know that the actor is actually talking to a tennis ball or Idris Elba in a jumpsuit. Sometimes prosthetics can look goofy, but if done to a good standard like they are in Lord of the Rings, you can really give your movie a more authentic look, and Star Trek Beyond absolutely has that. Star Trek Beyond is exactly what it's meant to be. It is the very definition of a summer popcorn blockbuster. It's absolutely packed with action, completely absurd, and features some great character humour. While it's full of action, it also takes time to slow down and appreciate its legacy, while also introducing us to a few new characters and alien races. While the crew and the Enterprise don't quite explore the universe as much as they have in previous iterations, the look of the visual effects and prosthetics make everything that does appear in the movie more than enough to feast your eyes upon. Even though there's a lot of comedy, it's ultimately a movie about loss, and it does really well providing a very touching, but not overpowering, tribute to Anton Yelchin and Leonard Nimoy. Star Trek Beyond never achieves anything greater than expected, but it also doesn't do much wrong. There really is no reason why this movie shouldn't live long and prosper. Star Trek Beyond gets 4 frames out of 5. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Film Rant.
He likes that scene.